Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. Before we dive into this powerful episode, please remember to subscribe to our channels and give us a 5-star rating on iTunes to continue hustling. This episode is brought to you by Excite Medical and the DRX 9000, Chiro HD, Softwave, Bridge Financial, 100% Chiropractic, Chiro Health USA, Imaging Services, Chiro Moguls, The Chiro Speaking Company, New Patients in a Box, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, Sherman College of Chiropractic, Life Chiropractic College West, Pro Hockey Chiros, Pro Baseball Chiros, and the IFCO. You can benefit from our full list of sponsors by visiting our sponsor page at chirohustle.com/sponsors. Links in the description. Now, let's hustle.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 622 of the Chiro Hustle podcast. I'm your producer, Luke Millette, and here's your host, James Chester.
So today we had the opportunity of interviewing Dr. Enrico Dolcecore, and we talk about practice styles from Canada to the US, and we focus on the conversation of marketing from old school to new school. Stay tuned for the full episode. Welcome back. This is another episode of the Chiro Hustle podcast. Today I have Dr. Enrico Dolcecore with me. I'm really excited for this episode. It's 622 of these. If you'd have told me that we'd be at 622 podcasts in 6.5 years, I'd have probably told you it'd take me 7.5 years to get there. But we figured out how to shrink space and time, and we just keep on putting out more quality content on the chiropractic profession. Before we jump into this episode, I just want to let you know the big why. Why do we do what we do over here at Chiro Hustle? Well, first things first is freedom of speech. We think that that's a very important topic to open up with, because we know what it's like to be traffic throttled and shadow banned and censored, and we do not want to do that to anyone else. So anyone that's ever been interviewed on our platform, you can go find it. And we've kept everybody up from day one till today. We also believe in medical freedom and family health freedom. They're not the same things. But if you're looking for answers to your questions, go find a chiropractor and get guidance from somebody that is well equipped to help you and your family with your needs and information on medical freedom and family health freedom. So important. We don't want to guess with our health. And then we get a bit more philosophical in our approach to our show. We do protect the sacred trust. If you don't know what that is, go research our show notes and find out what BJ Palmer's last words were. You're going to learn more about chiropractic than you previously did, I guarantee you. And then we support subluxation-centered chiropractic, and we believe in innate intelligence and universal intelligence. We believe that when man or woman, the physical gets adjusted, it connects them to man or woman, the spiritual. And with that, this is episode 622. Dr. Enrico, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man.
Fellow podcaster to fellow podcaster. I know that you understand all the nuances that goes into a show like this. So being a guest is kind of fun too, right?
It is way easier.
One of my favorite segments always is the origin story. Talk to me about how you came into chiropractic and how you were introduced to this profession.
Yeah, great question. I mean, I didn't realize my story until 10 years after being a chiropractor. Like the story was so simple at the very beginning. It was like, hurt my back playing football, went to go see the chiropractor, who we never saw chiropractors growing up. My parents are immigrants from Europe. I grew up in Canada, was playing actual American football, hurt my back. And they're like, go see Charlie. And he was a friend of the family and another Italian family. He just graduated from CMCC like a couple months out. And he was back in town and started up a little practice and go see Charlie. And we were like, who's Charlie? And he's a chiropractor. I'm like, why are you sending me? We've never been to a chiropractor. And so I was, 17 years old and went there. And within that week, I couldn't bend to touch my toes, like to tie up my shoes. And I was feeling better by the end of the week. It was amazing, but I was 17. But I worked with him for about 3 months because I was interested in everything. And in those 3 months, my asthma went away. I was using a rescue inhaler once or twice a day since I was like 6 years old. And literally just stopped within those 2 months, 3 months of working with him. And it was about a month later where I went back to him like, Charlie, what's up with the asthma thing? You didn't even say a word about this. And he showed me the merit chart. And that's it. I was sold. I'm like, I think I got to look into this chiropractic thing because I was into pre-med and I was going to do all that stuff. So that's my simple story. But 10 years after practice, growing up with immigrant parents, eating whole foods at home, every cooked meal at home, wasn't allowed to eat anything out of a package. Even though we didn't use chiropractic, we lived the chiropractic lifestyle. Just growing up, we were missing a chiropractor, and I guess I became one and kind of closed that family altogether, which is great. Which ended up saving my dad's life from stage 4 cancer. But that's another story for another day. So it all comes full circle, and yeah, that's my story. Never looking back.
So off camera, we were discussing like the origin stories of myself, which you didn't know. I grew up in Davenport, Iowa,
No.
and out of all the places you could have landed for chiropractic college, how did you pick Palmer?
Yeah, first we applied CMCC. That's the only school in Canada that doesn't speak French, and then my roommate, or sorry, classmate in school got accepted to Palmer. She went to Palmer the semester before I was going to start. I was actually going to start with her, but it was July 2004, and my family was going to the Olympics in Greece, so I didn't want to miss that. So we went there, and I started the following trimester in October. But it was because of her. She was like, "Hey, you should look into Palmer." And Palmer had a pretty easy application process, and by the time CMCC got back to me, I think I was in 4th try at Palmer when they finally accepted me at CMCC. So that's just because of the backlog. But chiropractic finds you, you don't find chiropractic, that's for sure. So Palmer was kind of like a nudge on the shoulder saying, "Hey, you should look into Palmer." I'm like, "Where's Palmer?" They're like, "Iowa." I'm like, "Where's Iowa?" So I found out where Iowa was.
I know you probably went there because you knew the winters were so amazing.
They're better than Calgary. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So let's develop this story a little bit better. So you practice in Canada, and then you come and practice in the United States. Tell me a little bit about the framework of practicing in Canada and then transitioning to practicing in the States. Some of the cool things, some of the hard things, some of the differences.
Yeah, graduated beginning of 2008 and went back to Calgary with my fiance at the time. She's from Michigan, chiropractor. We met at Palmer and started there, and they had little things that were different. It's mainly cash based. There is no insurance system there. The universal system was kind of falling apart when we were there anyways. Albertans were allowed to have $200 worth of chiropractic services per year. And right when we started in 2008, that government at that time took it out of the medical allowance. And so we took over a practice, and they were like, "And by the way, no one gets the $200 anymore." We're like, "Great." So we get started with that. And then the 2008 crash happens a month after I buy my practice at 9.2% interest. And yeah, that's how we started our career there. So the cash-based model was a blessing because you went out and people that paid for it didn't have any questions about insurance or whether it's covered. That was nice. So the people who wanted to be there were there. And learned some great, just natural things from that. We avoided insurance altogether. So that's the positive I got from that. But the writing was on the wall right from the beginning with the amount of control that the college had, the amount of control that the government has in there. There's only one board in Canada. There's only, our association and our college was together. So you just paid $2,400 a year mandatory dues for that. You didn't know where it was going, had no say in it. It was just the writing was on the wall at the beginning, and I started getting into the politics, and actually ran for board by 2016. I was having enough, and ran, and we had the biggest turnout at an AGM in the history of Alberta. Usually they get about 90 to 150 members that come out. We had like 400 and something members come out for this vote. And it was like within 6 votes, I had lost the seat that I was going for. And I just was like, okay, this is just really lopsided. And luckily, 2016 made the decision. I'm like, hey, let's try something new. My wife was like, yeah, let's go. I said, as long as it's not Michigan, let's go. And so we were looking at Texas, we were looking at Florida. We ended up in Florida, and then just had to re-grind there. So that's my Canada story, and I'll let you segue a little bit, but we'll talk about the US story afterwards.
So this Canadian situation where you thought that you at least would get $200 of benefit to each person went away, and then you had to go straight to a cash model.
Yeah.
How challenging was it to work straight out of the chute in a cash model?
Well, the patients were trained. So what ended up happening is I associated for a few months in a physical therapy type setting. It wasn't for me. I was out, and that's where we started looking at practices. Went to the bank, got like an SBA, the equivalent of an SBA loan at that time. Got approved to buy a practice from a retiring doctor. He had a mainly he went back to Hong Kong, so he had a mainly Chinese-based practice that my Mandarin sucked, so I wasn't able to retain a lot of people. But the system was there. People knew it was cash based, so it was fine. That part was fine. It was just that being out of school to dive into that and not have certainty and integrity and all those things. All you had was fire. We learned the hard way really quick. We had to find a coach. I found a Blair cervical coach who was actually in the same town. And that was the saving grace there. The first thing he told me is get a CLA subluxation station and just start scanning people to improve your certainty. And our PVA went from like 8 to 28 within 6 months because people were excited about their progress exams. And that kind of, and then as we got that, we started learning. So, and then plus his coaching and his mentoring in practice and seeing high volume, it was good to have him in our corner. Right. So we learned having a coach like off the bat. You needed to have it. So that's what saved us there. So the cash model was easy because people understood it. Even a socialized healthcare model in Canada, the toughest part was you were competing with the medical system. So people were like, I can just go to my primary for free and get an anti-inflammatory. Why would I have to pay out of pocket to see you? There was a little bit of that. People didn't want to pay. But honestly, if they were booking an appointment, coming in for an exam, paying for it, they were in. They were ready to get the services. So a little different than the United States where they're still going to ask you about insurance like every 8 visits. And you just have to keep telling them we don't do that. We just, here's a receipt.
Yeah. Over time, I've realized that being somebody's insurance advocate is not a chiropractor's job.
Mm-mm.
And it is the responsibility of the patient. They have to be a co-op within the situation of their model of transitioning through care with you. Like they have to have some personal responsibility. Like it's not just up to the chiropractor to wave a magic wand and fix subluxations on them and, you know, all is happy and well in that person's life. They have to be an active participant.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't care more about your health than you. You know, I say that probably 3 times a week in my office to patients. You know, if they're not doing the recommendations, if they're not following recommendations, if they're not listening, if they're missing appointments, I'm like, listen, I care, but I can't care more than you. And I care a lot. So if you don't care as much as I do about your health, I don't know where we're going to go from here. And they get it. Most people are like, yeah, you're right, doc. I'll make it next week 3 times. Don't worry about it.
So transitioning down to Florida, you bring
Yeah.
your wife down, you move out of Alberta and you get some sun, some beach time. What was different between like the practice model now? Like you came down to the States. I know that Florida's full of PI mills. Was that something you had to take face on?
You know, yeah, no, I didn't. I avoided it. I had met the mentor down here that took me on as an associate a couple years before, and that's how we kind of picked the area. He was in Clearwater area, and ended up coming in here and working with him. Great clinic, still friends with them. It worked well. And when we got here, he's like, "Okay, typical associate, right? Low salary, and go get new patients." And we had a 6-month-old and a 2-year-old. It was very different than 2008, whereas my wife and I, single in our 20s, like, let's go, or sorry, together, but without kids. And I kind of got a little frustrated. I was like, oh man, I don't want to hustle with babies. So, but I did. I'm type A. I hustled, and Facebook was just getting up in 2016, 2017. So I just sat there and both at home and at the office because I didn't have patients. And I'm like, well, I might as well do some social media stuff. Never really did social media. Got into this, figured out, Brunson's stuff from ClickFunnels, and just got the free books, got his loss leaders, got everything, his email list, and just started learning and creating my funnels and connecting them to Facebook ads. And I was getting 16, 17 new patients a week. And I was like, to my boss, I was like, I am going to go open up by my house, and I'm doing this myself. And he didn't have much of an argument. He was like, oh yeah, well, okay. And that's it. We found us a little spot, opened up, and continued on with the ads and workshops, and kind of went into the neurodivergent stuff. And man, we blew up faster than ever. And there's a credit from some prior experience in Canada being a chiropractor. I got to give myself some credit for that. But really, it was the social media And then that's what turned into what's now the digital coach and marketing 101 for chiropractors, and my passion that comes from behind that. Because if I had that in 2008, it would have been a whole different story. I don't know if I've ever would have sold. I don't know what kind of a business we would have opened, how many satellite practices we would have opened. Who knows?
Well, I know that marketing is like the holy grail of chiropractic.
Mhm.
If a chiropractor can figure it out and crack the code for it, life gets really awesome. If they go into the world and they can't crack the code and they depend on third parties doing it, it's not so awesome.
No.
So you learned how to do this for yourself, and now you're giving these skill sets and this training and these platforms to other chiropractors. How have you seen that helping support the abundance of chiropractic rather than what I've seen in other third party like agency models is they make a few quick bucks off of chiropractors and then it's c'est la vie.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. It came through the frustration during the time I was learning. There was a lot of this, these younger digital marketers, they were getting into it. And of course they were targeting chiropractors and dentists because it was an easy market. And I remember they'd offer, hey, I'll run your ads for free for 30 days, or I'll run your ads for free for 14 days.
that what
And I
you're saying
said,
that
yes.
that doesn't work anymore.
No, that went out really quick. But I would say yes. I would say yes. I'm like, help me out. Am I missing anything? And as the months went by, I ended up realizing I'm like, I know just as much as you guys. And then I started seeing the exact same ad copy. And this was in 2017. I'm like, time out. You're 19 in your parents' basement running my ads for, at that time, $1,500 a month. So that's what they wanted. And that's what rubbed me the wrong way. I'm like, I was doing the math. I'm like, you're doing better than most chiropractors if you truly have a bunch of clients. Like, this is crazy, which is okay. It's a different industry. It's marketing, fine. But off the backs of chiropractors, and that just, I don't know. I just didn't sleep well for a while.
I know you
I was
probably
up,
had smoke blowing out of your ears.
yeah, yeah. I was up late nights helping like classmates from Palmer, and they're like, what are you doing? Because I was posting on social media. I'm like, I just closed 14 new patients last week. They're like, what is going on? And I'm like, dude, you got to do this. And I was helping them for free. And it was like weeks were going by. My wife's coming down like 11:30 at night. She's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm setting up Dr.
Campaigns.
Joe's ads. And they're like, you got to charge for this. I'm like, okay, well, whatever. I'll charge, whatever. So as soon as I said like $200, people were like, yeah, I'll pay you $200. And then it slowly turned into a business. But that's how we learned. And then I started seeing it, and it was the same copy going around with all these digital agencies, the same thing. Hey, Pittsburgh, we're doing something special. Want to come check out our out? I'm like, did you guys go to like an Orlando conference with ClickFunnels and then all walk out of there and then do the same ad for the whole country? Like, I just don't understand.
I'll tell you, they went to a Ty Lopez weekend.
There you go. Something, right? Something happened because it was identical. I'm like, that is crazy. Okay.
And what he did is he taught them to niche into certain groups. And really they played tennis with chiropractic, and chiropractic was the low-hanging fruit. Yeah. So they're like, how many people want to niche into chiropractic? Well, you saw what happened. It was just sooner than later, it was a red ocean.
It was, yeah. It was. And those, and I ignored all that back end stuff from it because I was just so focused on studying and learning. And Brunson's stuff took us so far with the funneling and then landing pages. And then as Facebook and Meta converted to Meta and their AI and everything that's going on now, you don't even need to funnel anymore. You can just use forms and automation, which is great. But anyways, we're getting off topic here, but that was it. It was the passion of chiropractic and preserving chiropractors and empowering them to take control of everything, their certainty, their systems, their procedures, their building, and their marketing. Just take control of everything. You don't need to outsource this because everyone, and I'm going to sound crazy here, so forgive me. I might be the first one you blacklist. Everyone on the outside of chiropractic are psychopaths. Because they'll never understand what we understand. And even some of you that are mixers and subluxation deniers and all those people, even you are inside this bubble. One of us, whether you like it or not, we're going to trample you and we're going to love you because this profession does that. And you're ingrained into the profession. Unless you fully quit and walk away, there's no way out. So everyone on the outside is not out to get us. They just don't understand us. So everything they do is never going to be congruent with your message and your certainty. They're never going to understand it. And I love the marketers that come in, oh, chiropractic saved my life. And now I do marketing for chiropractors. I'm like, well, at least you see a chiropractor. That's great. Some of them don't even see chiropractors. That's great. But That's why it doesn't work for chiropractic. Unlike other streamlined things like Etsy or an e-shop or e-commerce or selling fabric or t-shirts or that type of stuff, marketing is just cookie cutter. You can do that. But when you're selling this chiropractic, we haven't sold out. Dentists have, PTs have, everyone has a streamlined. Chiropractic has not. And we have to treat that and preserve that as long as we possibly can. Forever. We have to preserve that forever.
You made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. This episode is brought to you by Excite Medical and the DRX 9000, Chiro HD, Softwave, Bridge Financial, 100% Chiropractic, Chiro Health USA, Imaging Services, Chiro Moguls, The Chiro Speaking Company, New Patients in a Box, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, Sherman College of Chiropractic, Life Chiropractic College West, Pro Hockey Chiros, Pro Baseball Chiros, and the IFCO. You can benefit from our full list of sponsors by visiting our sponsor page at chirohustle.com/sponsors. Links in the description. Now, let's hustle. Yeah, I think there's a lot of great takeaways in there. If anybody's watching or listening to this, go back and replay the last 5 minutes of this interview and just learn why there's necessity for integrity in marketing chiropractic, and learning the methods and sharing the secret. I think that's probably the big takeaway for me is listening to you as you learned it. And it was never about converting more people into your marketing. It was about how can I serve my classmates and help them, with their frustrations. And I think that's really, a real honest approach to anything in this world is chiropractors. The reason so many chiropractors struggle is because they don't know how to value what they do. And, I think that if people did know how to have new patients on autopilot, they would all be highly successful in learning how to, serve at a higher capacity and doing more for themselves and their local communities. But that gets me to the next phase of the understanding of taking another layer down. Let's take a neophyte, a new practitioner. You're talking about the evolution of where it started in 2017 to where we are today. What advice would you give to an upstart chiropractor that's finishing up at Palmer Davenport, finishing up their last trimester? What would you tell them to do right now to get their practice going?
Get into your community first. I mean, we're so into the screens and into the systems and the automations, and now AI is all the hype, and we're losing community and we're losing relationships. If you can be the first one in there, shaking hands and getting into the community and getting involved in any way possible that you can, you're gonna be ahead of the game right away. This is something I didn't say. In Calgary, I had to do that. I had to go in there, get into the community, join networks, join commerce, meet other practitioners, meet other industries right off the bat and shake hands. That's what I did because I had time and little patience. Once you start to get more patience, you're going to lose your time. And when I came to Tampa, same thing with 2 babies. You had to go out, shake hands, and build community and meet people in the community. And then you realize how tight these communities really are. That's it. And it's no difference. 2 different countries, 2 different places. It's all about community and relationship capital because now those relationships keep providing more seed than any lead generation system I've created. They're better. Yeah.
Well, this takes me back to where my sweet spot is. I actually have done 700 spinal screenings since 2016 and scheduled in over 10,000 new patients. So I think what you're saying, I wasn't expecting that, by the way. I wasn't expecting that answer. I was expecting some type of, you're going to do this, and this, and get patients on autopilot. But I think that it's really important for people to understand that going out and meeting people, people just don't know where to go or who to trust. And that's a real pain point for the consumer right now. They have been misled and they are losing full confidence in anybody to give them a straight answer on how to stay healthy and what to do for their families. That's why I open up the way I do about medical freedom and family health freedom is go find a chiropractor to get your questions answered and to stay on the up and up with good information, because chiropractors, I've also said this, on the chessboard of the medical world, um, chiropractic is the last thing to fall between medical tyranny and freedom of health. And I think that chiropractors have to stand in the gap for as long as the rest of our lives, and the rest of your children's lives, in order to keep medical freedom alive for choice, informed decisions for your family. And we don't fall to medical tyranny. So that's a big reason why we do what we do here, man, is because we keep the freedom of speech thing going, and we give people the opportunity to find chiropractic and get knowledge and education. 15 years ago, I was told this: our main primary focus is to educate people. It
Yeah.
hasn't changed.
It hasn't changed.
It hasn't changed. And like you said earlier, I was also told that we're going to care more about these people's health and lives than they will their own selves. That hasn't changed.
It has not.
So the theme is still real.
Yes.
And I think that when people finish up their programs at chiropractic universities, they have to go out, like you said, and do the things that look like work.
Yeah, it is. You told me what's the best answer to give to a new grad. I gave you the best answer. There's many answers. If we want to get into social media, I mean, that's the next step for sure. But if Mark Zuckerberg goes through a psychosis and pulls the plug on Meta, what are you going to do on Monday? You can't be dependent on this stuff, on technology. You can't. What if your pro adjuster goes out on Monday? What are you going to do? You're going to use your damn hands. And that's what we have in our profession. They can't take it away from us. We're untouchable. And we have to keep it that way. And for those younger docs, people went to jail for this profession. People spent time behind bars for this profession. And I think one of the last states to get accredited down the South was like in the 1960s, maybe 1971, I think it was. It wasn't that long ago. It took time to get to where we are. We got to defend this. And when you go around and you shake hands, you're not saying I'm a chiropractor. You're not saying I'm a dentist. There's a dime a dozen to say that. You say, I find, analyze, and remove subluxation so that you can live the healthiest life you possibly can with a clear and free nervous system. Just say that. I don't care what school you graduated from. Start there. You're not going to be looked at as crazy. You're going to be looked at, whoa, hang on. You use some big words. You sound like an expert. What do you do? I trained at a chiropractic school, but this is what I focus my entire practice around. And that's all I do. Can you do other stuff? Yes, you can do all the stuff you enjoy. But the premise of what you do is to find, analyze, and remove subluxations. That's it. That's all you were trained to do. So keep doing that. And that's what we market. So when people get so heavy onto like TikTok, like the whole TikTok thing, I warned people 3 years ago about TikTok. I said, yes, it's great. Do the videos, do this stuff. The ads are kind of wonky because you can't really target your area. So it's not great for brick and mortar, but it's great for virtual practice. And we do it. And we do TikTok ads and we help these people and these chiropractors. And then I'm like, what if, and I'm not saying I'm a prophet, but what if Joe Biden and that team decides to make it TikTok illegal? What are you going to do if you put all your eggs into TikTok? And here we are on the doorstep of TikTok being turned off in the United States. So this stuff can happen. So don't put all your eggs in there. Shaking hands in the community. When the lights go out, you will always have your community.
I gave a talk a couple weekends ago back in London over in the UK, and I had a slide that said, if the internet goes down tomorrow, I'll kick every marketer's ass. And I mean that. Yeah. And because you have to go back to the old block and tackling strategies. Like, you don't get to create future plays until you get the fundamentals down. Like, you have to become a fundamentalist when it comes to becoming a marketer. And there's no greater way to do that than go out there and to, like you said, shake hands and be the first in the room to say, I locate, detect, and correct vertebral subluxations. Let's get the conversation going.
That's how you start. So the new, to new grads, that's exactly what you say. James is not even a chiropractor, and he said it perfectly. That's what you do. Start there with every conversation. That is it. And I promise you a long, prosperous, and healthy career.
There's so much I could talk to you about, man. But let me ask you, like a big swinger. Where do you see the profession headed? I know that's a big question that I like to ask on our podcast is, in 20 years, where do we find chiropractic?
We're going to make it. We're going to do great. I see chiropractic fighting forward because if you were going to bet against it, you would have bet against it 30 years ago, 20 years ago, 10 years ago, and we're still here and standing. We're going to make it. It's just we're going to need more people like you and I getting loud and just holding course. That's it. We're a cruise ship on the Atlantic Ocean, and we have a destination, and we just got to stay on course. We've deviated a lot. That's why we haven't made it yet, but we're going to make it. We're truly going to make it, and it's by these principles and just funneling and your energy, your money, your time, your referrals to the right places. That's where it goes. For any of you that deny that these subluxation deniers are not there, they're there. They're there in full force to dismantle this whole thing. And it's been there for over 35 years. So it's a real thing, and we're not working against them. It's not a battle. It's not a war. This is just really us. They're trying to take us down. As long as we hold this together, we are in good shape moving forward. So just your energy is your time. Your money is your money. Give your money to the right people. Matt McCoy does amazing stuff with Chiro Futures and the vertebral subluxation research he puts out all the time. Use him. You've got Chiro Defense Council. Look into what they do to protect this profession and all over the world. They're the single-handedly defending these people. I called Hogue the Superman, the Clark Kent of our profession. He literally walks around with glasses and a suit, but underneath there, he's wearing a Superman outfit. And send them to Sherman, send them to Portugal, send them to the right schools that are really pushing this profession forward. And then take in the associates that graduate from all the other schools. Take them in. They are salivating when they come to your office to work for you. Like, what is going on? I thought I was going to do acupuncture. I'm like, great. It's fantastic that you know how to do acupuncture. Here's an acupuncture room. But the other 99% of our office analyzes, detects, and corrects subluxation. And it works great. And they love it. And they work with us, and you teach them, and we do the 33 principles, and we do all that stuff. Because of this podcast, I launched the 33 Principles of Marketing today. It's an ebook. You'll see it in social media across. I'm trying to get to all the chiropractors. And I did that on purpose because I know James is on a mission. And I thought it was just a great fit. And the title came to me this morning. I'm like, what am I going to call this book about marketing? And it was the 33 Principles of Marketing. So did that today. It's for free. Just download it. But we got to be congruent. We got to stick with this. And I think it's going to be great. I think anyone getting into chiropractic right now and just getting out, it's going to be great. We're going to grow. We're going to keep going. And I think we're going to fight corporation. We're going to fight being IPO'd. We're going to fight. We're not going to let it. We're going to keep it mom and pop shop. Had a great conversation here in Tampa about medical doctors with my patients. And they were like, go find a mom and pop medical doctor shop. They don't exist, especially in Florida. They've all been taken over. They don't exist. There is no mom and pop medical offices anymore. They're all part of a conglomerate. And I think we've been fighting strong. And if you bring up the examples of the ones that are out there, they're still chiropractic centric, and they haven't been medically involved yet either. So I think we're good. I hope that's
no, that's more than enough. And I tell everybody this: give your time, your talent, and your treasure, and funnel that energy into recruiting people into schools and send them to the right schools. So that's your time. You got to give your time to the future. When you tithe, give to organizations like Doc was just talking about. Give to organizations that support the future of chiropractic, not the dismantling of the profession. Mm-hmm. And your treasure, tithe, give to great causes. So your time, your talent, or your treasure. Those are the three things you can give to the future of this profession, and be clear with it. And like he said, find the misfits that fall out of the education system from these other non-principled schools and collect them, clean them up, and teach them how to adjust, and teach them the philosophy and teach them the art of chiropractic. And that's really what I've found over the past half decade is people lament to me a lot about how they're getting chiropractors that they're trying to hire as associates and they don't know how to adjust, or they don't understand philosophy. Well, don't look at that as the worst thing in the world. Mm-hmm. Look at that as how we can take a step forward and we can better them and we can supplant them into a better system. And, like you said, you have to take their framework and don't shame them or guilt them because of where they've come from. Find the good in them and develop them and turn them into the next future all-star.
You got it. Well put. Yeah. No, it's such a great opportunity. I mean, if you're looking for an associate, it's not freedom. You're not looking for freedom. I'm going to just stop you right there. It's more work. You got to train a new puppy, and no matter where they're from or how long they've worked. It's great. It's you get to pour into someone else's career. It's a great thing to do, but just make sure you're ready for it.
Yeah. I've been really excited to ask you this question too. Who are some of the influences that you've had? I know you said you came into chiropractic with no framework, but who have been some of the people that have really helped you develop into who you are today?
Yeah, the one thing we got lucky with right when I got into in 2004 was Guy Reekman. I got to talk to him right off the bat. Everyone's like, "You gotta go talk to Guy," and just a few minutes with him was all I needed to be like, I made the right choice. And then the next try, he left for life, and that whole story and debacle. But and then I got tied in with Patrick Gentempo, close knit with him and David Fletcher. I mean, come on. I mean, God puts you in the right places at the right time for your life. And so Gentempo did some amazing stuff for us, both with CLA and just the things that he told us that we were never taught in school. So for me, Gentempo, those things. But if there's somebody I would want to meet that's dead, it would be Hippocrates. I'd love to just sit down and talk to this guy and be like, what did you exactly mean for the future of medicine? And I think he'd just sit and tell me, I think it's chiropractic. I think that's what I meant. I'm like, great, perfect. Thank you very much.
Because I've been pondering this for the past 20 years, bro.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. And let's close out the miracle story. What have you seen happening one point in your life that just like totally changed your trajectory of the way you thought about chiropractic or someone else's life?
Oh man. Oh, so many and so early. My associates now, we've had associates that have worked with us for a few years. Just told the story at our meeting on Monday. She's like, I remember when I first started working with you, Dr. D, there was a nonverbal 4-year-old girl who didn't speak English and their family was Spanish. So, and Crystal speaks Spanish. And so within a few weeks of working with us, she was coming in asking for, I want an apple, please, in Spanish. And Crystal was like, she dropped her water cup. She's like, you're nonverbal, and saying full sentences, working with us after, I think it was like 5 weeks. And she told the story again after 3 years, our meeting on Monday. And I was like, oh man, these miracles don't even like they do excite me, but they don't even like rev me up like they used to when I first graduated. And there's miracles all the time. Another lady dealing with trigeminal neuralgia 3 months ago for 5 years comes in, 3 chiropractic adjustments. She's like, I am pain-free for the first time in 5 years. She got little kids. They just this is just from the last couple months. I mean, I've been doing this for 16 years. How long do you got? Just amazing stuff. I remember 3 canes were left in Calgary in my office. 3 people just walked better. They thought they were going to lose the function of their legs and MS, and they leave canes in our office. I mean, just the stories just keep going, man. What an amazing profession. Stick with it. And those things were not any shiny object. There was no cold laser involved. There was nothing against these things. I found, analyzed, and corrected subluxations on all of those miracles. And I will continue to do so.
Well, I didn't realize how great of a connection we would have today or how awesome of an episode this would become. So thank you for being so open to share. And thank you for doing everything that you do for the chiropractic profession and standing in the gap and protecting the sacred trust and believing in everything that we believe in. And
yeah, man, you too. Thank you.
That's really powerful. And who knew that we were from the same camp? You were at the same time in Davenport, Iowa when I was
crazy.
I've been in this profession for 15 years now. So to know that you've been around the block for 16 years, we're you and I, we're the same, man. We're from the same group.
Yeah. I remember when you were on my podcast a few months ago, you're like, I've been doing my podcast for 6 or 7 years. I'm like, I started Marketing 101 like 6 or 7 years ago. And now Davenport 15, 16 years ago. I mean, I guess we're just, brothers from another mother.
Yeah. Well, is there anything I didn't touch on that you wanted to talk about today?
No, that was great for all you chiropractors looking for some guidance. I mean, Marketing 101 for chiropractors is free. You just go on to Facebook, Marketing 101 for chiropractors, ask to join. The only question is, are you a DC? If you say yes, you're in. If you don't, you're not in. We keep it pretty clean. We keep it pretty simple. The rules are just respect one another and ask great questions. It's grown to, I think we're hitting 1,000 people, like 1,000 DCs are in that group. It's absolutely great. And that's been my kind of side project for the last 6 years. It's fun, and I'm highly involved in it. And then reach out to me anytime. My wife hates it when I say that, but reach out to me anytime. It's what I do at night. It's what I love, answering your marketing questions and your growth questions, associate questions, buying commercial properties, selling your Canada practice and moving to the States. I love all that stuff. So I can help you out.
Well, Dr. Enrico, thank you for being our episode 622 of the Chiro Hustle podcast. It's a real honor to have you on.
Good job, man. Keep going.
Yeah. And I close out all the time by telling everybody, you guys are just one story away. Keep hustling and join Marketing 101 for chiropractors. Have a good night, Doc.
See ya.
All right. Bye for now. Thanks for listening to Chiro Hustle. Don't forget to subscribe and check back next week to continue hustling.